Attention, ladies and gentlemen, this is the final announcement for all the attendees to kindly come inside and be seated. We are about to start with the first panel discussion of this afternoon. I request all the attendees to kindly come inside and be seated. This is the final announcement. We are about to begin. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to Security Now 2023. My name is Madiha Khan, and before I became a journalist and I started doing multiple things in life, I had a very long stint with Hindustan Times. Can we put the background music lower? Thank you. So yes, I had a very long stint with Hindustan Times, and I had some really nice mentors when I was working over there, and one of my mentor told me something that stayed with me. He told me that, Madiha, no matter what you decide to do in life, even if you decide to become a sweeper, because I did have a lot of interest in sweeping, he said, no matter what you decide to do in life, remember two things. First is to be honest to your job, to what you do. And second is to take out an hour every single day to educate yourself about your profession. And I have not been able to comply with him as much, but I do try to be honest and to learn about my profession as much as possible. And I think today, all of you present over here are doing exactly that. We are here not just to collaborate, not just to network, but to educate ourselves, to learn a little bit more about this constantly changing landscape that we are all in. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin with the first panel discussion of this conference, the panel discussion that all of us have been waiting for. We are going to delve into the intricate world of data, where we are going to discuss about the data dilemma, complying globally and securing locally. We are going to talk about the global compliances and local securities. And for that, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting much time, I am going to call on stage our experts who are going to speak. Firstly, with our moderator for this session, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for CEO Seclore Vishal Gupta, the moderator for the session. On the expert panel, we have Mr. Ravi Kumar from CDSL, Mr. Suresh Shankaran from HDFC Bank, Commander Animesh from Indian Navy, and lastly, Mr. Rangarajan from Adani Group. Ladies and gentlemen, please give all our experts a huge round of applause.
Welcome. Hi. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Come on, Animesh, always a pleasure. Hi, please have a seat.
I would now like to leave the stage to Mr. Vishal to please begin with the panel discussion.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. How's everyone doing on caffeine? Everybody caffeined up? What were the two signs? This, thumbs up, and this. Everybody? Okay, good, great. Thanks a lot, everyone, and thanks a lot for the panel of experts taking out time. I'll take a couple of minutes to set up the context for this conversation. And the first thing I want to acknowledge is that on this stage today, we have about 100 years of security practitioners experience, right? And I'm trying to compress and take the juice out in the next 30 minutes odd or so before we open up the panel to the audience, right? So that's a tall task already. So the idea of this panel discussion takes off from where a couple of minutes ago I was speaking on the keynote, which is or the welcome address, right? Which is that every security practitioner today is dealing with a big, what I call the data dilemma, right? Which is there are a lot of reasons to secure and keep data local, and there are a lot of reasons to comply globally, right? And on this stage itself, we've got a wide variety of enterprises and professionals, right? Or professionals who are working for a wide variety of enterprises, right? So we've got Commander Animesh from the Indian Navy, right? And I'll talk about why that represents, in some sense, one extreme. And on the other extreme, we have Suresh from HDFC Bank, right? Which is everybody okay with sound and getting some can everybody hear me at the back? Okay, great. So at the other end of the spectrum is, Suresh from HDFC Bank, which has presence in, lots of countries, comes under a lot of compliance frameworks spread globally, right, and so on. And then we've got, Ravi from CDSL and Rangarajan from Adani, right, who are in this spectrum. And the idea of this is that, hey, there are extreme security requirements. If Commander Animesh and his team was not doing a good job of protecting our data or protecting the national data working for the Indian Armed Forces, we would have a lot of things to worry about. So thank you. Thanks a lot for your service. And at the same time, if Suresh, Ravi, Rangarajan were not doing their jobs well, then hey, I'm an HDFC Bank customer, and of course a CDSL customer, and so on. Not yet a customer of Adani. I don't know how I could become one, but right. So obviously we've got professionals here who are playing very, very important roles and so on, but they face very different challenges, right? And the idea of this in the next couple of minutes is to bring out this spectrum well, and how each of them are handling different challenges. So that's the idea of the next 30 odd minutes that we have. I'll take I'll give 30 minutes each or 30 seconds each to each of our panel members to just quickly introduce themselves, what is the role that they play for each of the respective enterprises, and then we'll get on with the questions. So we have 30 minutes, and then we'll open it up to a couple of questions from the audience, right? Starting with Mr. Rangarajan.
Yeah. Morning, everyone. I'm Rangarajan, Vice President Adani Defense and Aerospace. I, in my role, lead digitalization and cybersecurity for Adani Defense, as well as being the business head for drones business.
You, Commander Animesh.
Good morning, friends. I'm Commander Animesh. I am Joint Director in Indian Navy. We're working at Directorate of Information Technology, responsible for various projects, including info security policies and issues with respect to data governance, data protection of Indian Navy. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Suresh Shankaran. So I am part of the CISO's team. I basically look into the data protection requirements and identity access management, InfoSec awareness, and certain compliance like SWIFT CSP for the bank. I'm one of the direct reportees to the CISO. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Ravi here. So I have over 17 years of experience in IT network security, and in current role, I am part of a CISO team, and I look after the security operations, governance, compliance, and vulnerability management. So I'm looking forward to this session.
Thank you. And gentlemen, I have taken the liberty of getting to first name basis with everyone, since I've worked personally with all of you before without permission, so I apologize for that, and I hope I can continue to do that. Thank you. So we'll start off with, and I do want to draw out the whole spectrum, right? Let's start with organizations who are most under scrutiny from a global security and compliance perspective, right? And my first question is to you, Suresh, and then I'll come to you, Mr. Rangarajan. Is how do you find out and how do you comply with these global privacy regulations, right? And HDFC Bank is now the fourth or third largest financial services company in the world today, right?
Between 4 to 7.
4 to 7, depending on how you measure assets under management and so on. Right. So let's say number 5 financial services company in the world, spread across the globe, right, and so on. And if you can specifically talk about, to start with, how is HDFC Bank's team even structured internally, right, to people, role, processes, those kind of things, that will be really helpful.
So HDFC Bank has very segregated kind of setup where I am part of the information security team. There is a IT team. There is a business technology function. There is credit operations, so on, and which are sales business functions. So from there is also a strong legal team who look into all these privacy related aspects. Bank has a CISO function, CIO function. There is a data privacy officer, data governance officer, data officer. So lot of focus on and preparing for the DP Act is already the people and process people are in place. The processes are being evolved, fine tuned. But to give a background, as a bank, we already were compliant to many regulations. Like we are ISO 27000 compliant. We are compliant to PCI DSS. We are compliant to SWIFT related requirements. We are listed in NASDAQ, so we are supposed to comply to SOX audit requirements. We have statutory audit. We have internal audit, so on and so forth. The laundry list goes on. So even today, as we speak, there is some diners team who have come to audit the bank for certain regulations. So that way, at least the building blocks are already in place. So which has to be maybe tuned to the DP Act. Check when that exact rules and regulations come into picture. We will have to maybe compare where are the points of improvements and how we have to tighten the controls. So that is my submission. So that is how most of the Indian banks would also be facing similar types of regulatory requirements.
So is it like within the bank there is one person responsible for SOX compliance, another one for PCI DSS, another one for DPDPA and so on, or is there a team who says, okay, let me look at common pattern?
Bank has a dedicated compliance team, which is kind of a central team, but every function will also have their own compliance teams. That is like maybe a mothership we can call, but all teams will have to have their compliance spokes in place. So whenever suppose the RBI sends maybe a guidelines which say 300 points, so that would be either individually or jointly distributed to all the stakeholders, and it will be a collective effort. But there will be a central compliance team who will ensure that all the stakeholders collectively work together and deliver what is expected as a team.
Got it. Got it.
So there will be many actionables which a single team would not be able to implement. There will be a joint responsibility, but one of them will have to lead and get it closed.
That looks like a couple of organizations by themselves, right? Just managing this bit.
Yes,
but
yes.
thanks a lot, Suresh. Yeah. So, Mr. Rangarajan, how is at the group level, and then Adani Group has many businesses, right? So how do these compliances and security initiatives get split internally? How are people structured?
Got it. I think at the group level, there are multiple types of compliances, so I'm not going to talk about all of them, but whether it be contractual, legal, cyber security, there is an entire set of compliances and they vary quite a bit by company. What I would like to focus on is the set of compliances which we need to approach from a defense and aerospace perspective.
Sure.
If I look at it that way, Adani Defense as a company, as a defense manufacturer, our interests are tied to national security interests.
Of course.
So, apart from the 250 crore penalty that Mr. Duggal so vigorously...
Everybody knows 250 crores by now, right? Exactly. And for people who are not, who've come here not from India, 250 crores is about 30 million, right? Dollars, right? So everybody knows, right?
That, I think that has been very forcefully implanted in our brains by Mr. Duggal. Apart from that, for example, as a defense manufacturer, we are also bound by the Official Secrets Act, which can essentially say that if I, as a defense manufacturer, am found transmitting information in an unauthorized manner or in a manner that can be considered prejudicial to the interests of the state, I can be straight away imprisoned for up to 14 years. So no pressure, but that's essentially what we deal with. And therefore, what we therefore look at is compliance, which is table stakes at the group level, which is handled by a group cyber team.
Okay.
So there is an entire CISO setup at the group level and at the BU level. At the defense specific level, we have extra layers of compliance and protection that we carry out for a lot of the programs that we are privileged to be part of. So for example, we are a development cum production partner to the Indian government for a lot of critical programs, whether it be missiles, drones, and many other things. And therefore, we have what we call 7 layers of cybersecurity, which we implement as part of the overall cybersecurity posture for the defense BU. It starts with thinking of the national security interests, integrating cyber security and physical security, adding layers of encryption on how data at rest, data in motion, and data governance is controlled, and ensuring that all of these are continually monitored and updated on an ongoing basis. So we have our own teams. In fact, some of the team members are already here today. We have essentially, therefore, a structure which takes into account national security interests, implement 7 layers of cybersecurity on top, and ensure that they are churned and governed on an ongoing basis.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I think the example that I always give is that if you think compliance is expensive, right, try non-compliance, right, and then you'll find out what's really expensive. But thanks a lot. My next question is to you, Ravi, and then I'll of course I'll open it up to everybody else, right? The majority of the audience here are security practitioners, and some of us from Seclore and other are security providers. With this DPDPA Act and CDSL, I think handles about 15 million.
We crossed 10 crores account last month.
Okay.
We are the only depository, not in India, but in Asia, to have 10 crore demat account.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot of data, and with that data comes a lot of responsibilities and so on. So now with DPDPA and similar regulations, coming in from across the world, are you facing a lot of pressure to keep data more and more local to India? And if the answer is yes, how do you marry that with things which are almost forcing you, for example, adopting the cloud could be one, or sharing data with external agencies, which is not really an option anymore, and so on, and adapting the digital workplace and so on. So how do you marry these two, what might appear to be mutually conflicting objectives?
Yeah. So first we need to understand CDSL is a regulated entity.
Right.
So when I say regulated entity, it is regulated by SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India. So all the exchanges, all the depositories, clearing corporation, asset management company, they are the regulated entities.
Right.
So even before the DPDPA Act, SEBI, I think it was around March, they came up with a framework on adoption of cloud services. So it is based on 9 principles, and one of the principles being on the data localization. So we have to understand that DPDPA Act may be, as a law, it may be new, but this concept is not new. We have seen that more or less same arrangement in GDPR. So we have, in fact, as a security practitioner, we have preempted and we have already started working on that well before this framework was given to us by the SEBI. So as part of data localization, when we engage with a provider, so SEBI mandates that this ESP should be METI certified, Ministry of Electronics and IT. So it should be METI certified. So what we do when we engage with a cloud service provider, we ensure that their availability zones or the regional data centers are within India. And yes, there are as in our topic we have data dilemma. So with regards to compliance, it is privacy laws are more from the personal side of things, whereas security is more from the enterprise side of things.
Right.
So whereas privacy demands everything, especially your PII data or SPI data should be mask. So being a security guy, one of the key functions that we have is the detection and incident response. That needs a visibility, right?
Right.
Whereas the privacy demands that everything should be masked, and no, more you encrypt the data, more private it becomes. Whereas you lose on the security, right?
And by the way, post lunch we have a very interesting discussion hosted by Isaac exactly on this topic. But I just want to plug that in. But please continue.
Yeah. So as I was saying that we are a regulated entity. So DPDP Act as of now, the SEBI has not released any circular by default. Since it's a law of the land, it is no, something which needs to be compliant.
So do you find that, I have a follow-up question on that, do you find yourself constrained that, but if you can only adopt cloud services which are MATI approved or certified and so on, and if in theory you could use 100 cloud services, does that bring that list down to 5 already? And therefore, do you see that hampering innovation, hampering digital transformation in any way?
It is the same for us now also, because let's take an example of audit, which is a different example. So all the auditors should be certain, empaneled and certified. So that is the case for the regulated entity. It is slightly different than no, any other entity for us. So yeah, that is the case.
Sure.
And especially, we are living in a post-pandemic era. Everything is externalized. So definitely, remaining on-premise is not a choice. So we are already, we have already made our journey on the cloud. Definitely, within the confinement of SEBI-defined framework. So that for SEBI, CERTIN, and NCIPC, these are the 3 regulators which mandate or which define how we should be working at CDSL.
Sure, and I wanted to invite Commander Animesh to comment, right? Right, as we speak, the defense and armed forces are not outside of the ambit of DPDPA. It might happen by January, but are you preparing for it, or are you kind of relying on defense forces being excluded from that?
So when we look at defense, mostly we comply with most of the regulations. Most of our data is local. In fact, most of our critical data is on-prem, not even on cloud. We are very, very sensitive as far as data is concerned. The only aspect where DPDPA, where certain deliberations are going on, is with respect to taking consent of a user for utilizing the data. And in defense, if you are in defense, there is no concept of consent. So we have not heard of a consent from a user. So that is
command and control, right?
It's all command and control, it's all directives.
Right.
So directives are very, very clear. Mostly whenever, like he has also brought out, so whenever defense data or any data with respect to, whenever we are entering into a contract with any third party, the terms are very, very clear. There's official secret acts, there's a confidentiality agreement. Nothing moves out, everything is within your own space, own service. Many a times when the data is sensitive, teams from Navy visit these locations to ensure where the data is kept, whether it is conforming to our requirements or not. So as an organization, as far as the security, for us, privacy is security, period. I mean, there is no separate thing, this is privacy, this is security. If privacy is lost, security is lost. So we are very, very concerned, and we are very, very clear. Our agenda, or our directives are very, very clear how to handle data, and it has to be as secure as possible. Sure. So as far as this new act is coming in, like I said, except for the part where the consent needs to be taken, and probably a slight gray area remains of how to handle the data with respect to veterans who are no longer within the Naval Act or the Military Act. That is the only discussion which is presently going on within the organizations. More or less, we'll be in compliance with most of the regulations.
Mr. Rangaranjan?
Yeah, I am also like to take on a point that you mentioned. Does it hamper organizational functioning, some of these security layers? I think that's a very good question. And the way I see it is typically how I see the role of AI in organizations. There are always concerns of whether AI can become too intelligent, can it actually take over humanity and so on. But the fact is that an enterprising person will find the opportunity in this entire chaos, right? And I personally believe...
Or an intelligent AI bot in this case.
Or an intelligent AI bot can potentially do that as well. And I personally believe that while there are certain rules and guardrails being put forward, I think it opens up a whole array of opportunities for people to come up with easy to use cyber secure offerings which can, I would say, meld very easily into people's current ways of doing things. How do I ensure that I integrate into business's current workflow in a manner that is least intrusive but still effective? I think that's a great opportunity that companies have to actually address this particular space. I think Seclore is also doing a fantastic job on that front, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
And the other angle I'd also like to call out is, it is also mandated, or I would say important, for the digital teams, the cybersecurity teams, and the IT teams who are represented here today, to really think about what is the user experience, what is my business experience, and how can I, as a service function, provide the best possible security with the least amount of intrusion at the perimeters on my workflows.
Got it. I have to plug in the Seclore offering over here, and Commander Animesh, what you spoke about, right? Like when you send data to all these third parties, which might include Adani Defense, although I have no personal knowledge of that, by the way, right? One of the patterns that we've seen with enterprises that we work with across the world is that third party risk is turning out to be one of the very big, it was big to start with, but with more and more regulations and security risk, third party risk is turning out to be a big area of concern for everyone, that hey, I've secured my network and my devices and everything that I can control, but business requirements, which includes Indian armed forces, also have to collaborate with enterprises like Adani and I'm sure other defense contractors. It's not only the security of my infrastructure, but the security of the whole supply chain around me, right? Which includes vendors, contractors, customers, partners, right? That whole ecosystem. And it's becoming more and more difficult to do that. It's not always possible to send an army of people or a navy of people, right? Or let's say an army of people to go and do third party vendor audits, right? Because these vendors could be all over the world. Breaches might go undetected in all of these places, right, and so on. So it is a increasingly important area of enterprise risk that we see enterprises around us starting to focus on, which is I need to start go look outside and not only within, right? And the weakest link represents the strength of the chain, right? But thanks a lot for your thoughts. My next question is to you again, Commander Animesh, is that data governance has been a popular term and continues to be a popular term, even today. It's crucial to make sure that the data is not accessed by unauthorized people, but it's almost equally important to make sure that it is accessible to the right people, right? And in operations like the one that you run, seconds of delay in access to data could have catastrophic, consequences. Now these might look like, unless you are able to really carve out the right policies and so on, either you make a mistake on either side and it could be catastrophic. How do you manage this? Right? That has to be a big challenge for anybody.
So like you brought out, Vishal, that's correct. And more than a governance issue, it's a lot of implementation issues. So even if you put in the policies, when you are actually trying to get those policies implemented, you'll face with technical challenges because security says ki you keep your data safe, keep it enclosed, whereas availability of data, you have to ensure, especially if it's a real-time data, it has to reach from one point to the other point at the fastest possible means, and you use technology. There are chances of certain oversights. There's chances of certain, where you leak out certain aspects of security. that is very thin line, and I think as an organization, what we do, so we realize as we move forward, we require this data, and we have to ensure that data is collected first securely. Once we collect this data has to be managed, and third, then it has to be disseminated. I mean, it has to reach the right customer within the organization. Before this governance laws came in 21 itself, we came out with certain governance policies, how to collect the data, what all security measures needs to be undertaken when we are collecting the data, what all security measures needs to be implemented when the data is being transmitted, who will be the respective customers to what kind of data, the probable customers to what kind of data. We are still framing certain governing bodies for individual sets of data to further refine these policies. At the same time, we have a very strong feedback mechanism. So we keep revisiting our methodologies of how we are implementing technology, how we are ensuring that the data reaches the endpoint, as well as what our governing policies are. So you have to keep revisiting and keep improvising as and when the requirement of the organization is. It's always a tough challenge. There's a lot of work, rework which happens. A lot of consolidation needs to be done, and there is no easy answers to it. But it's always it's a work in progress. If you ask me, it's a continuous work in progress.
Suresh, yeah, it's got to be a difficult challenge, right? Making it available, but not making it too available.
So what I am able to maybe anticipate now is when the card PCI standard came, so it brought in some discipline. So suddenly we realized that we cannot store. I'm just trying to correlate a practical example that you cannot store clear card data in your systems. So slowly there was a change where every legacy application across the system, they started encrypting the card data. It took time. There were certain systems where they gave a compensating controls in place, took some time for 6 months, and then they complied with the card standards. So same thing is, I'm just predicting all the software vendors maybe will have to ensure that entire scope of information which is part of the PII, they will be stored in encrypted format, they will be masked. What sort of, whatever controls feasible, they should be implemented. It will become a journey. We will have lot of legacy applications in various organizations which will be maybe at least a decade old technologies are still running because they're core applications, your mainframes. So there will be changes in all these applications, and eventually you will arrive at a stage where your entire life cycle of the data, maybe origination of data, and there you put encryption, data at rest you put encryption. It is already there, but we have to make it so watertight that even people should really be justified in asking for data, even if they have to do some marketing or some any other cross-sell or analytics of profitability. Nobody should be able to access the data. So that is a regime I am seeing eventually where it will be totally controlled, and there will be lot of access controls. Maybe systems will get integrated with a tool like Seclore, where only Seclore protected files get generated from the applications and the business processes. If it gets shared outside the organization, it should only the intended recipient should be able to open that, otherwise it should be junk. So these steps will eventually come, and there will be the vendors will also ensure that they are also compliant to the DPDP Act. So that is what I'm just predicting from my experience of the PCI, where we will have to tell if you don't need the information, don't capture. So for example, we used to have a loan application. I'm just giving this input so that you can just preempt what you might have to go through. Then we really checked for collection purpose. See, earlier we did not have the Sibils of the worlds where we could by just giving some feedback, we could not get a footprint in the industry. So what we used to check in the form, do you have relationship with any other bank? Do you have any other credit card? That used to be happening before the PCI. The intention was, if the customer stops paying or just vanishes from that place, at least we have some, whether other place he has a relationship, we can go and check. Then what happened, we stopped collecting all these, stop collecting such information.
Right.
So eventually the roadmap would be, you will have a central system where you store the PI data, all other applications, they just refer to that so that you can protect one place like a fortress. So these are some changes I am anticipating, and that is where the whole technologically we might be able to control things.
And we are very happy to partner and be
Yeah.
your data protection partner of choice. Thank you, Mr. Rangaraj.
Yeah, I think fantastic points being brought out by Mr. Suresh as well. To add to what he was saying, a lot of the esteemed organizations here on the dais are actually dealing with recurring volumes of data in terabytes.
Right.
A defense company, for example, however, deals with programs. Each program is awarded, there is a life cycle to the program being delivered, and so on and so forth. One specific nuance to data protection in that context is how do you ensure security of data from day zero of a program?
Mhm.
I think that's an important angle for many startups, for many projects businesses. I think that's an important angle to consider. And it's really about how do you implant that discipline from day zero, because the minute you allow, I would say, loose practices to proliferate, it becomes very difficult to control after that. But if you actually catch something on day zero and kind of ensure data security at inception, then people get mentally trained to behave in a more secure manner. So that's point number one. And maybe the second point I'd like to also add is the points on data in motion, data in rest, protecting all of that and translating that into a set of practices which are repeatedly effective. I think the data governance layer is an extremely tricky task, but it, at least in our experience, can be cracked by being very clear about what the perimeters are. Where does data ingress and exit from the organization? What are my control points there? Where does data get into a supplier network which has XYZ levels of risk? I mean, for example, in the security manual for licensed defense industries, there are A category, B category, and C category suppliers. And the levels of security can be different for each. So setting in place the correct controls at the ingress and exit points can be extremely helpful in terms of managing the entire data governance bit.
Yeah, I correlate security practitioners a lot with parenting, right? Like I don't know if how many of us have teen or post-teen kids, right? And like you said, Mr. Rangarajan, right? It's very, very difficult to layer security on if you've not built it ground up, right? And a very recent example was taking away my son's phone. It was fine when he didn't have a phone, right? There was much lesser problem. But once you give the phone, taking it away is virtually impossible, right? There's hell and fire and a lot more if that happens, right? So yes, security day zero, even for a 2-people startup, is absolutely critical, and that was very progressive. I know we interacted, very in the very early days of the program, and I can definitely, or all of us can see the benefit of layering security on versus just ground up having security to start with, right? It's far easier journey that way. So thanks a lot for that. This has been very interesting. I know we have only a couple of minutes more, and I wanted to invite each of the panel members to share maybe one insight of one big mistake that you've made in the last couple of years in the context of security on the intersection of security and privacy, and what were your learnings from that one big oversight, mistake, and so on, that all the audience members can in some sense learn from you. And we've got, and let me repeat, we've got 100 years here, right? We are trying to compress it in the next couple of minutes. And Ravi, why don't we start from you?
Yeah, so having worked in different organizations, I feel that asset management is one of the areas which is often overlooked. So when I was working in one of the organization, we had basically, it was long back, so they were using like a ring technology, and they had a central breakout of the internet. So basically the internet was working dead slow. So when we investigated, we identified there were around 4 machines which were basically choking the bandwidth. So, and those 4 machines were not part of the inventory, and hence they were never patched. So one of the, I think, areas is the asset management reconciliation and ensuring regular patching. So this is the common area I've seen, at least in not one, but maybe more than one company which I worked for.
Thank you, that's very valuable. Suresh?
So actually, I don't have any major visibility on a mistake or such, but we should be agile, we should continuously improve, as an organization, we should be able to preempt things. So that will really help. For example, in this, this theme is DP Act, we should not maybe wait for another 6 months for the government to come with the feedback. Maybe, if we are able to prepare well in advance, check all the controls which are in place, check with global practices, maybe you will be able to save some time or the last minute rush. So that is some learning, maybe which we can share. Suppose it comes as a rule after 6 months that you have to do this and you are rushing against time. So those kind of checks and balance all organizations should have to preempt the technological changes, the legal changes, the process changes. So that will really help you deliver things in a timely manner and not rush through things. So that can be at a high level our experience. Otherwise, you will be lagging. But for our organization, what I can say by experience, I have been with the bank for almost 20 years. They start a bit slow, but they have become a leader in all maybe business opportunities. So we were the maybe a late entrant into the full-fledged retail asset business or the card business. But today we are number 1. So that is how, if you consistently focus with time, maybe you will lead in all your segments. So that is what I want to share.
Very well, very well. Come on, Animesh.
So one thing we generally overlook is at the center of the entire security are the people, and mostly large number of population in the organization will be unaware of what are the breaches which is happening, what are the cybersecurity flaws in the organizations. So it's very important to bring in the awareness. So earlier, generally the stance used to be is, whenever a breach used to happen, we used to keep under wraps. But then we realized that unless people are made aware, and when I speak about awareness, it's just not telling them, okay, don't do this, don't do that, because people do not understand not doing and doing something, how it will impact them. Until you are given a live example or practical example how a breach happens or what exactly has happened. So we started relaying certain information back to the people, that certain things have happened. Such InfoSec violation created such and such problem. That really made an impact to the organization where people could now realize, okay, this, if I do this, this is what can happen. So as an organization, I think a lot of organizations generally keep a lot of things under wraps. Some things, yes, you need to for greater good, but there are few things I think you have to make people aware. This is what has happened in the organization and this is how it is going to impact. So one small mistake or one small fallacy on your end will create organizational impact to everybody. So I think that was one of the learnings we had as we progressed, and we are also ensuring that the awareness programs is driven through various methodologies across to the entire personnel of Indian Navy.
Very valuable.
I think fantastic points by all the members thus far. I'd also like to add one more point on the basics. If you see, we might have the most sophisticated systems possible, but my experience is that even today, a lot of our people are actually susceptible to the simplest of phishing attacks.
Right.
And that is not something that you can actually control through any system. If a person decides to give the password, I think it is not going to help any organization after that. So I think just the point that Commander Animesh mentioned around awareness and ensuring that there is hygiene in terms of some of the basics, I think is going to be extremely important. Recently in June 2023, there was a a report about America's most cyber secure companies 2023. Intel was on top of the list. And there are a lot of the companies, in fact, a lot of them are expectedly in the banking and finance domain, as you would rightly expect.
Sure.
The number one hygiene aspect that they ensure is password hygiene. Right?
Okay.
The second thing that they do is just basic awareness sessions on phishing campaigns. That actually attacks almost 80% of the potential risk areas, and that itself can be of a huge benefit to any organization.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think there's the common pattern here that is emerging is that, hey, awareness or people represents the biggest risk and of course the biggest assets for nearly every enterprise, and awareness is a big driver, and it could be a preventive rather than corrective. And I think Isaac and the team at Seclore we are experimenting with an idea of what we call the harmless breach, right? And the basic idea of the harmless breach is that in some sense there is as we talk to security professionals all around, and I think we saw one slide in Dr. Dugal's deck that 80% of the enterprises are breached just in the last 1 year, or right, and so on. So our assumption here is that that's a very tall task, and that task becomes taller and taller as the number of people increases exponentially, right? So if the number of units of effort to educate a 10 people company is 100, by the time you become a 100 people company, it doesn't get multiplied by 10, it gets multiplied by 100, right? So it's 10,000 and not 1,000, and so on. So one of the concepts that we are experimenting with is the harmless breach, which is you kind of assume that breaches are going to happen, right? Let's start with that. And then how do you make sure that even if there is a breach, right, somebody actually shares the password or shares that data or customer data or personal data, how do you make sure that a infrastructure breach doesn't result in a data breach, right? And it's a fine line, because then you are starting to define, hey, what does a data breach even mean, kind of thing. So we are still in early days, but that's almost the post of that, right? Like if educating, I don't know, 100,000 people or 200,000 people at HDFC plus HDFC Bank put together, right, that's a very, very tall task. I mean, I'm the CEO of a company that is barely a couple of hundred people, right, or thereabout, and that's already a tall task for our organization. And I cannot even imagine what it will take to educate, people who are on submarines and ships and 200,000, 300,000 people that work for the bank and all the contractors and so on. That looks like a really, really tall task here, but it has to be done, right? I'm not questioning the need for it to be done, but it does appear like a very, very tall task, and something which I think as security professionals we'll have to start gearing ourselves up to say, hey, network protection, firewall, antivirus, encryption are great things, but look, we are all in some sense trying to become psychotherapists for lack of a better word for these group of 100,000 people that we are expected to, 100,000 assets that we are out there protecting, right? But any last thoughts? And I know we are just at the edge of time, but any last thoughts?
One point
Suresh?
on the awareness piece, which
Yeah.
I'm also manage as part of my domain. So we got more traction when we started sending dashboards to our top management. So earlier we were trying on our own, forcing people to do the awareness courses. People used to fall prey to phishing mails sent internally through our simulation platforms. But what changed was, two things happened. One is we started engaging our senior management, presenting the figures, statistics in all our information security committee, sending notes to the board. And also after this COVID, teams became like a birthright. Everybody has a now tool to where we can communicate. So what we do continuously try to keep on. I have two guys whose job is at least per day you conduct one training. You send invite to 1,000 people, at least 100 will join. That way you keep on engaging with them, reinforce especially the phishing related attacks and other best practices, acceptable usage practices. But it is uh, you can't use the word thankless, but you have to keep on trying. No, we also have a HR grid where we are tied up with HR. Anybody clicking on a phishing link for a second time, first time he will get a warning note from HR. Then there is a strong punishment grid also. That is never a thought process as an educator, but all these factors are required. We have a very detailed grid where if somebody repeats the same thing, there will be stringent action. And we never wanted to name and shame, but now we take the names and send it to the top management and all. So that is how we are managing. It never happens with 0 clicks, it never happens. So somebody or the other will fall, he will be a new employee. He would be in some remote location where he is not fully aware. So it's a continuous journey. That's my experience.
Thank you. And yeah, security and privacy is not an easy job. One of the things I always correlated, I spent many years living in a student hostel, right? And the mess of that hostel was run by the students themselves. And I always relate the security job to the mess secretary, which is the most thankless job, right? If the food is good, nobody remembers you. But if the food is bad, you know who you're going to get a call, right, very quickly, and so on. But thanks a lot, everybody here, for your service. We are very thankful that you are doing the jobs that you are doing, and that's why we have the luxury of being here, protecting the nation, protecting some of the largest defense and financial services companies in the region. Thank you, everyone. And I know we had kept some time for audience questions. If I can ask Devesh to give us another 5 minutes, maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions. Do we have 5 minutes? Okay.
Yes, we do have.
All right, thank you.
Just on the lighter side, since we are concluding, so we started evaluating top SSO solutions globally.
Right.
And 15 days later, I will not be taking any names. We got a news, the global leader in SSO, global leader in password management, they themselves have got hacked. So it's a dilemma. So we are trying to authenticate internal solution which is in my data center protected. It works only on a bank laptop and I try to connect it to some global leader, SSO and passwordless solution, and 15 days you get a news that they are hacked. They are saying nothing new, it has happened multiple times. You just change the password, we have patched it. So this is something, it is a reality. So even just adopting technology for the sake of adoption might be counterproductive. That is on the lighter side.
Yeah,
but
you
this
just
is what
played
I
out my
experienced.
worst nightmare, by the way. Right? It's bad for a bank to be in the news for data breaches, but I can tell you there's nothing worse than a data security company to be in the news for a data breach. Right? That's my worst nightmare. There you've lived out, Suresh. But thanks a lot. We'll open it up for maybe 1 or 2 questions depending on time. I don't know if there's a mic. Can we get the mic over? And this is the part where I put on my spectacles. Yes. If you can identify yourself, name and organization, that'll be really good.
So my name is Raghav, and I work for CPP Group, taking care of the governance risk and
At
compliance.
least I'm maybe growing old, but I'm having trouble. Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Raghav, and I work for CPP Group for the Asia business. I handle the governance risk and compliance. So taking back to the first question, that where should the DPDP compliance sit? So I think a lot of focus, was that it seems that the CISO office, in terms of what you all have said, looks to be the right place where the compliance with DPDP sits. But, it seems that, security is just one aspect of it. So sure. Even in your flyer, when we look at the 7 principles, security is just one part of it. And
sure.
Do you think that this piece of DPDP compliance should sit outside the CISO office because the complaints that you will get from the end users is those would not be that you didn't keep my data secure. It would be, why did you share my data elsewhere? Do you have my consent? How do you retain it?
Sure.
So yeah, what's your view on this? In terms of the industry
sure.
Meetings and the people I meet, it seems to be forming a view that security is the most
sure.
important aspect.
No, I appreciate that
but
question.
That is not, I think so.
Yeah, I'll maybe quickly comment on it, and I'll open it up to the panelists. I think the good way to look at it is follow the trail, right? Which is, if there is a breach to DPDPA, who's the first person who's going to land up in prison, right? And maybe the security should, or compliance should sit there and then kind of go down from there. But any of the panelists, I think this is a question for which will worry pretty much every panelist, right? Ravi?
I think they have, apart from the data protection officers, they have a term called as consent manager. I think it will be a very challenging job, what I feel, to have that consent manager, because every time he will have to go back to each and every person to have that consent. So I feel implementation of the consent manager will be challenging in my view. That's the only piece in the DPDPA which worries me from the consent standpoint.
So do you believe that there should be, the DPDPA compliance should be almost a separate function in some sense, or is security or the security team, the CISO's office, a good place to house that initiative? Suresh?
Initially, maybe, I think CISO office will be the right place to start, because there is a lot of, technology related aspects and also legal. So it will be a combination of law, people, for example, the DPO at our bank is a technology expert and he's also a lawyer. So he's done his CASSP and also a lawyer. So this kind of combinations will really, be able to propagate and roll out the privacy concept, talk to stakeholders. But one correlation from the banking side is, RBI came out with a circular that a CISO should report to either the Chief Risk Officer, ED or MD. So in future, maybe when things mature, things fall in place after all the learnings and controls are put in place, maybe for banks, RBI will come out with some specific clear-cut guidelines, and similarly maybe even IRDA or SEBI will come out with some clarity and direction for their stakeholders.
Yeah, and it's a good way to send somebody else to prison instead of yourself, right? So that's a good thing to do generally. We have time for one more question here. Anybody? If there are no questions, it usually means either everybody gets it or nobody has a clue. Which one is it? All right, I think that's been great. Thanks a lot, audience, for your for your time, and I cannot thank the panel members enough for taking out time from their busy schedules and spending this hour with us. I'm sure we are definitely wiser. I can already see halos behind everybody's head over here, and it's not only because, hey, I'm bald. But thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Big round of applause.
Thank you so much to all our experts and, of course, our very amazing moderator for moderating this entire panel discussion. I request all of you to kindly stay back on stage, and I request Team Seclore to kindly come on the stage and felicitate our experts. Can we have Team Seclore, please? Ladies and gentlemen, can we please have a huge round of applause for Mr. Rangarajan? Please give it up for Mr. Commander Animesh. Mr. Suresh Shankaran, ladies and gentlemen. and Mr. Ravi Kumar. Once again, thank you so much, Team Seclore, our moderator, Mr. Vishal, and all of our experts for guiding us, educating us on a topic that can have a discussion going on forever. I would request all of you all to please come together for a group picture before. So that was the first panel discussion of this afternoon, and I wish and I hope that we did get our pointers and we did understand, and we do have questions because, like I told you, there's a fishbowl. You can put all your questions out there and we will be addressing all of them. See, I'm going to do something very silly with all of you right now, okay, because I feel like this is literally the need of the hour. I want all of you all to look at me and smile. Give me a nice, warm, heartwarming smile. Come on, look at me and smile. I'm looking at all of you. That's it? Can we be a little bit more happier? See, there are muscles over here. See, before you smile, I'll tell you one thing. We have these really long sessions. They are educative. They are important. And to go through all of them, we, of course, need a lot of caffeine, but we also need to relax and work our muscles. So let's work out our muscles right now. Come on, smile. The moment I look at you, give me a smile. Smile. Nice. See, we look so pretty and nice when we smile, right? So keep smiling, because right now we are going to go into another session. This is also going to be very, very informative, and this is going to address some of the issues and talks that all of us have been wanting to know about. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to call on stage Mr. Nangaraj P. Solkar. He is winner of Top 100 CISO Awards 2012 with 27 years of experience in BFSCI domain and cyber security veteran. Currently, he is associated as Chief Information Security Officer with Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. Can we have a huge round of applause for him, please? And joining him for this session, we will have another speaker also right after his session. But ladies and gentlemen, right now the stage is for Mr. Nangaraj. So over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible? I'm so short that I don't know whether I'm reachable to the mic. So I know that I'm standing between you and the lunch. So on the interest of time, I will not take much of the time. Though whatever I have prepared, and today, after attending the first off session, I could understand that what I prepared or my homework was not enough at all, right? So I come from the insurance background. I worked for almost 21 years in insurance, 15 years in life insurance, and 6 years in general insurance. So having said that, so there's a saying that when there is no food for thought, well, let's give some food for stomach as well, right? So people have already added a lot of thoughts to food for our thoughts. I don't know what much I'm going to add here, right? So this is the one I should use, the arrow. Thanks. Okay, so before moving on to the slides, I don't have much slides. So today, what we all are witnessing is a huge shift from data security risk management to compliance risk management. So that is what, at least I could, everyone must be feeling this. I could feel this because now compliance, seeing that as a risk. If you're not going to be compliant, then obviously you're inviting a bigger risk to the organization, to ourselves, including the individuals, right? So when we are witnessing this, So my topic would be on the IRDA insurance regulatory ask today after they had been coming up with a lot of changes in last 6 years. Time to time they had been coming with a lot of Okay, so quickly on this, including the DPDP Act, whatever comes, obviously the sectorial regulators also adopt that first, and then the sectorial organizations or also the regulated entities also supposed to follow on that. I just created a summary out of it from the recent guidelines, which was released by IRDA in month of April, and most of the insurance companies are struggling to see that how we can make a framework to be more compliant to it. So this is something more related to the data security, a summary of what is IRDA guidelines talk about it. And when it comes to the data security, data discovery, right? So here I'm trying to map what Seclore is offering. Seclore is, we all know that, they are pioneer on this, data security, which is on a granular side. So the data security tool, what is the demand today is to discover all the data wherever it is lying. But this has been preached to us by Seclore kind of companies at a user level, user-centric level, that you go and discover it. When you are the creator, you are the owner of the information. You are the information owner, you are also the risk owner, right? So the discovery started from there, the culture started from there. Now today the requirement is to discover wherever it is, which is a requirement of a tool, right? And classification, obviously, that the owners or the information owners or the risk owners have been empowered. At least I'm associated since 2007 with Seclore, and which I had been hearing that they are trying to preach, or they are preaching that when you are creating, you are supposed to classify the information. When you are classifying it accordingly, you protect it, right? So this allows something which we could see. And data leakage prevention, always, when it comes to data leakage prevention, always we think about the DLP. Seclore was ahead of it. DLP, even if it fails, your data, when it is protected with the right permission, with right encryption, and even when it goes in a wrong hands or in any media, USB or any of the internet, right? It doesn't matter. It is always secure wherever it travels. The policy follows, right? And IRD also demands for the security awareness when it comes to the data security. Awareness is all, all panelists were talking about awareness consistently. Mr. Suresh was insisting on that, regular awareness, routine awareness on the phishing. Again, this, awareness is something that, till we go back to the tool-enabled data discovery, tool-enabled data encryption, tool-enabled data classification, we rely on our users to do that. The responsibility is something which is lying with every user who was going to create that, right? So this is something which, again, IRDA requirement. So quick another, sharing with third parties. Third parties is something which always we had a problem, right? Being an insurance company or a banking company, always data sharing with, everything can be processed in-house. However, there are some areas that we may need to share it outside for policy printing, renewal printing, check printing, right? So when we share that, obviously the customer information also goes out. So Seclore has already come up with this, and we are, most of us are using this. So this is something which is meeting the regulatory requirement, those who are already using it, right? And I'll not touch upon on each topic of this. I'll just quickly go to the challenges. So what are the challenges we face today? So every time the regulator keeps on coming with one or other regulatory requirement, right? So once the regulation has come, the circular keep coming as an addendum. So for insurance companies, they would have seen that. In last 3 years, at least 4 to 5 addendums which have come, circulars which have come, adding to the current regulation. So this time they come up with the complete revamp of the guideline. right? So that is going to be always a continuous challenge, right? And so that relies on the CISOs to keep doing the assessment, gap assessment between the compliance requirement and the implementation part of it. And Seclore, obviously, it helps on the incident management during the audit or during the incidents, right? In both the places, the audit trails are available for the complete accessibility of the information which we are sending outside. Centrally manage it and decentrally distribute it. So that's one. Okay, so maybe on the challenges, who is responsible over here for any of the implementation of security when it comes? So let us take the same DRM. If DRM is not successfully implemented in the organization, is it a failure of Seclore? Is it failure of the management? Is it failure of the user? We can't keep blaming it after somebody finds out, auditor finds out that it is not implemented to the adequate level, right? Obviously, I see this as say I'm talking from an insurance background, right? As a CISO representing an insurance background. Who is the failure of this if it is not implemented? I see this as a CISO's responsibility, right? Interact with your management. You are the one Spock who has to interact with your management, interact with your business heads, interact with your users, interact with your vendors, partners, right? Technology, when I say vendor partners, or no, when it is used on a Microsoft Office, Excel, if it is not working, whatever the issues, or work with your partner like Seclore, get them arranged. If it is not adopted properly, the adoption failure is CISO. That is what I would see from my perspective. So a classic example, what I used to tell whenever I talk is, if your requirement is to make a call from your phone and see WhatsApp, why do you need to buy a iPhone 14 or 15, right? Buying something and not at all using the features of it, and using only for 2 features. Let's buy something which is required only that many features, right? Buying all the features and implementing only 2 out of 10 or 10 out of 100. So the feature enablement, the consumption, the adoption of the features or something, again, a responsibility of the CISO when it comes to the security domain. Whether 100%, so when we are evaluating a product, we do the evaluation of success criteria. After evaluation, when we are buying, it is not installing, it is implementation. So the implementation is something different from installation. Right? So if a security solution is not completely implemented, obviously, and if it is not completely tracked and it is not regularly assessed for utilization, control effectiveness, right? All these things, obviously the failure is expected part of it and the responsibility lies with the CISO. Right? And finally, so there is a say that, have you been hacked? So when you ask somebody, the answer is yes or yet to be hacked. Similarly, do we have an option for not using document rights management? No. We have to use it. And obviously, have you used it? If not, you don't have an option, you have to use it. If you are using it, that is not enough, that you have to keep exploring, assess adoptability, assess the effectiveness of usage, right? Assess the audit trail of it, whether there is any violation to it. Keep reporting that. Obviously, this becomes overburdened to the CISO sometimes. We need to find out the way, whether we need to build a team for it or we need to find a smart way of doing it, right? So with this, I'll not take much time of yours. I'll say thank you for your patience. It is, there is a saying that, so these are some of the benefits, right? This is the saying that, it is very difficult to give a long speech before lunch, or it is very difficult to listen to a speech before lunch. I don't know what is true today. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nagraj. Can we please have a huge round of applause for Mr. Nagraj for addressing all of the issues and making us understand what CISO does and what his job is, I would request Team Seclore to kindly come on stage to felicitate Mr. Nagraj. Mr. Nagraj P. Solkar, CISO, Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. Thank you so much, sir. We have one more speaker before we break for lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting much time, I'm going to call our next speaker on stage, Mr. Rakesh Mashruwala from Axis Bank. He's the Senior Vice President. He's a key member of Axis Bank's cyber security leadership and erstwhile CISO Atrits Limited. It's an Axis Bank subsidiary with 3 decades of IT experience, out of which 17 years of information security. A couple of information security first in the BFSCI sector, earning multiple awards from Asian Banker, IBA, DSCIA, ASCOM, IDBRT, etc. He also is an avid runner, a cyclist. He's an alumni from IIM Ahmedabad, an engineering graduate, and an athlete who likes to run, who's also a cyclist. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause to Mr. Rakesh Mashruwala. Over to you, sir.
Hi everyone. Am I audible? Yeah. Right. We all know business challenges that are there across the industry. Yes, first would be your revenue growth. The second would be your customer expectations. Third will be your compliance. Fourth will be your regulatory assurance that you keep giving it. Fifth will be, you have to have quality of product as well as ensure that your growth is there. Financial management, hiring, etc., etc. So, all this, when you look at it, to make any decisions, be it strategic in nature or tactical, and at times nowadays, at operational levels, we have been using data through different modes, different technologies right now, artificial intelligence, chatbots, etc. And data being the core aspect, it also equally needs security around it. And it is actually a lifeline for making any business decisions. This data would be lying in your crown jewels, applications which are used to run your business. Now, to secure all these things, you would require certain, you will require to govern those. You will require to have discovery mechanism by which you discover those data. You will have to ensure once you discover it, you have already classified it also, saying that this will be your business sensitive critical data. For example, in banking industry, we have PII information, which is personally identified identifier information, which can relate it to an individual. And there will be sensitive personal data, which will be used for authentication and etc. So this would be very crucial for you, and to ensure that this data remains within the realms of your organizations and your partners who are helping you to deliver the business. That's a key challenge that every organization will face, and that would be faced by even CISO's team to ensure data protection as well as security of that, and then have an overall governance structure around it. To comply, as I said, when you do all these things, you will have different tools that will be deployed. How do you detect and monitor abnormal behavior around it? And then subsequently, how do you ensure those alerts or events that are there to turn it into an incident? You need to have some form of alert management in place. Yes, we heard a couple of people talking about pre-pandemic and post-pandemic scenario. In post-pandemic scenario, what we have observed, initially the data used to be within the on-prem kind of an environment. Cloud adoption was definitely, it was just started up. But then pandemic gave a big impetus to it. We have externalized our data to an extent now we really don't know from where it is getting delivered. Yes, definitely data localization from RBI or from other regulated entities such as SEBI is a norm, but we really don't know from which of the place in the country the data is being delivered, how secure that is there. So earlier, if you look at it, we used to have our organization and it was to be protected by devices which are there, which will prevent the access to the network of the organization. And hence you used to have, security firewalls, intrusion prevention systems and everything. From there on, you had, product-based solutions. Today, because of data being most important and it can be accessed from anywhere, be it cloud, to which you have an access, your organization has an access, your users have an access, your customers have an access. So right now the need for each organization is to have solutions, to have data-centric solutions. You will have to identify and classify your data, which is your crown jewels, which is within those crown jewels, which are the critical fields that is there. So you will have to look at data-centric solutions rather than a product-based solutions. Yes, what you need to also equally look for is what should be the scope. What we do is when we actually have, we classify our data, we know where data lies, who is the creator of the data, to the consumer of the data. We forget we don't scope it out correctly. When I mean scope, it is not just your organization, your partners also. It should extend to those places where some kind of processing is also happening. One should also equally ensure that we have services also taken. What we do is we take a data-centric solution, afterwards we get it installed, commissioned, and we expect that things are secure. No, that is not the case. Somebody just said, 80% of your you may have a great security around your perimeter, but a simple phishing, 80% is, the security is breached through some kind of email that is sent. Even though awareness is there, like Suresh said that every organization will have a vertical focusing on awareness, but this is the area which is very weak. Same way, having a product is one aspect of it. Along with that, scope out your services, scope out your end goal and objective. This I'm saying from my own, our own experiences that we had. Yes, definitely we have to also ensure that we are complying by whatever regulations that are there in place. Again, as I said, you have put everything in place. You will also equally require to have a visibility, what's happening around. If we have said, and to give you an example, we will have a solution which is information rights management, and then we give a protect license to the user. What user does is goes there, this is the data, protect, it just protects it, and by default, all aspects are enabled. You send that data out to a partner will download it, and let's say banking context I'm saying, it could be your credit card or debit card printing. He downloads all that data, then he prints it out, card is then delivered, there will be a delivery also, information is given back to the bank that we have delivered it. Now that data lying there needs to be purged because the objective is met. But what will happen is a solution is there which gave you the ability. User will think that fine, I did my job of you telling me to do this. We did it. We sent it out. But they were not aware that you had to put time barring there. So beyond this time, it will be purged automatically. Control. Again, this again comes back to that you should also have a control at the partner's end. Many a times what happens is we think, okay, I'm giving some information in some shape and form. It comes back to me as a end result, and I will not be bothered what is happening at the partner's end. And if you would have looked upon 3-4 years back, there were a lot of supply chain attacks that were there. And it is a reality that supply chain attacks will be there and it will be pervasive because nobody wants to be exposed directly and hence it will see a jump ads. So what when you have data-centric solutions or platforms, you have taken up a services, you had the users who are made aware in terms of this is the kind of data, let's say for example PCI DSS, you have to mask the data. And you have made them aware that 1 is masking the data, 2 is not storing the data, 3 is not forwarding the data, 4 is not printing the data, etc., all those kinds of control that you have already ensured that you are putting it in place is when your end-to-end data lifecycle management will be truly completed. We heard a lot of digital India, and we picked it up. Every organization picked up a digitization process within their organization. There will be DBAT team, or somebody will say that we want to have a good customer experience, sometimes customer experience, and within that there will be a digital CDO who will be there. But what we forget is security team is separate. There's a CDO team which is separate. We don't make them collaborate together or make them part of the design itself. And because of this reason, what can happen is you would just say something to be done, but they will not be getting implemented in the solutions, in the digital journey that is there. So, information security or cyber security or data security per se should be inherent part of that digitization process. What it will, and if that is there, then definitely there will be a seamless integration and security that you can give it back to the customer from end-to-end perspective. With this, when your focus, somebody said in DPDP, 250 crores, it's a big, huge board level discussion that data fiduciary, in the banking context I'm saying, we are a data fiduciary and we have data processor which are our likes of your SESA and other places where we have our checkbook printing, we will have our credit card, debit card printing, or we will have credit card or your bank statement being printed. We cannot have those because those are not our core businesses and we have outsourced it. Once that will be safeguarded, you will be having a focus to your core business that you are actually supposed to be in banking context. It's the services and the products that you give it. Give them a omni-channel experience. Give them variety of. I remember 7 to 8 years back when I was engaging with a couple of banks with whom I was a customer. I used to tell them that I should be owning the risk that is there on my whatever services that I'm using it. Why don't you empower me with some form where I set my limits, be it on credit card, be it on debit card, be it on ATM card or ATM from ATM or channels also. And slowly but steadily we went towards that. And today, you know, even though I will have X lakh of rupees as a credit limit, I still have an option of choosing it that I make it only, you know, 50,000 and different channels. On a merchant channel, I can make only 25,000. Likewise, so we are able to now focus more on, the business leaders are able to focus more on the core business that is there. And risk insight will help in terms of understanding the trends that is going around, how the data is flowing across. So many of the solution not just protect you, data-centric solution, they also give you an insight from where the data is being generated to who is the processor of the data, what kind of elements that he is adding it, and then the last but not the least, who is the consumer of the data. This overall gives you a better return on investment if you would start focusing now more towards data-centric solution rather than organizations network-based or, you know, perimeter-based or your application-based. I don't say those are not important. The focus needs to shift. Application is a way that the data is being delivered. At the end of the day, business is running on information that is there, which is there in different disparate data sets that is available across different systems. So a thought process is getting within the organization. This is what we see it happening around in the banking industry. The data is becoming more and more important. Yes, others are now becoming a surround system to help get business achieve their financial or whatever revenue or growth. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rakesh. I request you to stay back on stage, and I request Team Seclore to kindly come on stage to felicitate Mr. Rakesh. Please give a huge round of applause to Mr. Rakesh Mashruwala, Senior Vice President, Axis Bank. Thank you so much, sir. One final gift from my end, sir. Yes, then, ladies and gentlemen, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So all the play part of today is going to come to you post-lunch. We are going to break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen. Please come back by 2 o'clock because, like I said, the play part is going to come post-lunch. I'm not going to take much time. Go ahead, enjoy your lunch. I'm going to see all of you back here at 2 o'clock. Thank you so much.